Okay, so we're going to start with section 8.2. And section 8.2, part of it starts talking about exponents. All right, and so if you see something like this expression right here, that's read 2 to the third power. 2 to the third power. So it's read 2 to the third power. All right, now the 2 right here is called the base. Okay, the 2 is called the base. And the 3 is called the exponent. The 2 is called the base, and the 3 is called the exponent. All right, now 2 to the third means you take the base and you multiply by itself the exponent number of times. So based on that, what does that mean? 2 to the third. 2 times 2 times 2. That's what that means. Now, if it says evaluate, that means actually multiply this thing out. So what's 2 times 2 times 2, or what's 2 to the third? 16. Not 16. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. Okay. So the answer is 8. All right, so on page 556, this is number 6. So number 6 says 1 to the 8th power. All right, so 1 to the 8th power means 1 times itself how many times? 8. But 1 raised to any power is always going to be what? 1. So that's always going to be 1. So remember, that means 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 and so on, right? How many times should I have? How many factors of these? 8. Notice they use the word factor. So there are 8 factors of 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And 1 times itself, however many times, this could be 1 to the 800th power, it would still be what? 1. All right. Number 12, you have 6/11 squared. 6/11 squared. Now, what does that mean? Don't tell me the answer, just tell me what that means. 6/11 times 6/11, right? Okay, so it does not mean 6/11 times 2, just like this right here did not mean 2 times 3. 2 to the third does not mean 2 times 3. 2 to the third means 2 times 2 times 2. 6/11 squared means 6/11 times 6/11. All right, and based on last semester, you got to remember how to multiply fractions. So you multiply numerators, multiply denominators. Usually, though, if you can reduce, you reduce first. You can't reduce here, but if you could reduce first, it does help. Or you can reduce at the end. It does not matter. But can I reduce anything here? No. So what's 6 times 6? 36. What's 11 times 11? 121. All right, leave your answers as a fraction. Don't rise a decimal. If the problem's written as a fraction, leave the answer as a fraction. All right, 16. You have 1.5 squared. All right, 1.5 squared. And now this time you have a decimal, so you're going to have to do a little bit of work. You have to remember something from last semester. 1.5 squared means 1.5 times itself, right? And so I'm going to go ahead and do it like this in parentheses. And so remember last semester when you did this, you aligned them vertically. Now remember, you multiply, you don't align the decimal point, you just align the digits going from right to left. It just so happens that these decimal points aligned. And the reason why they aligned was because you were multiplying a number by itself. Now remember how you did this. You said 5 times 5 is 25. Carry the 2. 5 times 1 is 5 plus 2 is 7. All right, then go to the 1. 1 times 5 is 5. Where do I put that 5? On the 7. 1 times 1 is 1. And then you did what to those numbers? Add them up. So that's 5. 7 and 5 is 12, right? And then 1 plus 1 is 2. And then what was the next thing you had to do? Count the number of decimal places, which is how many? 2. And so you need how many digits behind that decimal point? 2. So where will I put that decimal point? Between the 2's? And so the answer is 2.25. Now remember, we're reading it as 2.25, but last semester you learned that mathematically it's actually read as 2 and what? 25 hundredths. Use place value when you read decimals, but because of it's like quicker just to say 2.25. But this is really 2 and 25 hundredths place value. Remember place value from last semester? 2 and 25 hundredths. But we'll just say 2.25. Yes?
I can't really see the example of thing like
Move it where?
That's good right there.
Okay. All right. Okay, now let's look at this one.
And all of these numbers are coming so far from page 556?
Yes.
6, 12, 16.
Problem 6, problem 12, problem 16.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, 3 to the 7th. Now we're going to do, there's no way I would expect you to actually work out 3 to the 7th by hand, because that's 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. How many times? 7. So use your calculator. So on your calculator, all right, so on your calculator, you're going to say, now, let's see if you can read this. All right. So you can put the base in. Now remember, I'm using the one that's recommended for this course. I'm going to put the base in first. And what's the base? 3. So you type in 3, and then you're going to have to raise it. So, and you're raising it to the 7th power. So you see this thing that looks like a roof? You press that. And then you're going to type in the exponent. What's the exponent? 7. And you equal or enter, and then it's 2,187. Okay, so that's how you use the exponent button on your calculator.
Okay, so for the worksheet, you said no calculator.
No calculator.
It's okay to do that?
To do what?
A problem like we just had?
No, well, you don't have any. There's none that's going to be that big.
Oh, okay.
Okay? So I only did that just to show you how to use your exponent calculator.
Thank you. Nobody
Okay.
showed me that.
Yeah. Yeah. But on your worksheet, the numbers are small to where you don't need a calculator.
Okay.
All right, now you can use your calculator to check.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I was listening to you,
Uh-huh.
but I multiplied it out myself.
Okay.
Because I don't have a calculator. Can you just show me that, so I got 2187, but can you just show me that button you pushed on that?
Mhm.
I'm gonna use the calculator.
3. This right here. Can you see it?
I don't know what
It's like
it
an up
is.
arrow.
It's an arrow.
Looks like a roof.
Oh, okay, that's, okay. Okay,
And then 7.
you just put 7.
Equal. Okay?
And I can see that calculator after class. So.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Okay, now let's look at this. Okay, so we have this expression.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
On the last page you had up, on the 1.5 times 1.5, I'm wondering how you got the 1 at the beginning of 7.5.
5 times 5 is 25, right?
Right.
5 times 1 is 5 plus 2 is 7, correct?
Correct.
Now the 1. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 1 is 1, correct? So your question is this. Let's add the digits. 5 and 0 is 5. 7 plus 5 is 12. Carry the 1.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? All right, let's look at this. All right, what would you do first in this problem? Multiplication? Why would you do multiplication first?
No order of operations.
Order of operations? And what's the order of operations? What does it say?
Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, addition, and subtraction.
All right, so you see, you're remembering an acronym. You're remembering a phrase.
Please.
And so when you said multiplication, you said we do multiplication first because according to that phrase, multiplication came first.
Right.
But you're forgetting something else. We do multiplication division from left to right. And we do addition subtraction from left to right. All right, so you got to be careful when you use acronyms to remember a phrase or to remember an order. So you actually don't do multiplication first. You do division first. So remember the phrase that you're remembering is this. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally.
Yeah.
And notice I'm putting my dear and Aunt Sally together. There's no space between my dear and Aunt Sally. And so the P here stands for grouping symbols, P for parentheses. In this course, it's usually going to be parentheses, but there are some brackets. So it's not always parentheses that you see as a grouping symbol. But the P here, we're going to put parentheses. So if you have parentheses, you always do what's inside the parentheses first. Okay? Now I'm going to also put grouping symbols because there are some other grouping symbols that are involved. The E stands for what? Exponent. So if you have exponent, you do that next. Okay, exponent. So you do your grouping symbols first. And once you take care of all your grouping symbols, then you do the exponents next. The M stands for what?
Multiplying.
And the D stands for division. So multiply and then divide. But you got to do it from left to right. So whatever, as you go from left to right, whatever comes up first, that's what you do. And then addition subtraction is always done last. So after you do all of this, if all you have left is addition subtraction, you do addition subtraction from left to right. So add and then subtract, and you do it from left to right. Okay? All right, so this is an easy one then. So what do you do first? Divide. Now, if you look at the worksheet says show all steps. So I'm telling you, you're going to be very upset if you turn in the worksheet and all you have is the answer for the part that has order of operations. You're going to be very upset. You're not going to get any points because what the direction says. Always read the directions. What does the direction say? Show steps. Okay? Show steps. All right. So in this particular case, what you would do first is this. You would say, all right, I have to do division first. So you're going to say equal. What's 6 divided by 2? 3. So then you're going to say 3 times 3, and then you're going to say your answer. And what's the answer? What was that? 9, right? 9.
So you wouldn't do 6 divided by 6.
No, order of operations. You do multiplication division from left to right. Okay? Left to right. So when I have division and multiplication here, don't do multiplication first because it says multiplication in the phrase. You do multiplication division from left to right. As you go from left to right, whatever appears first is what you do. Okay? All right. Okay. Now, in terms of your grouping symbols, you could have something like, and you'll see this throughout this course, but usually it's going to be parentheses. You'll see braces that look like this. That could be a grouping symbol. You can see brackets as your grouping symbol. You can see parentheses as your grouping symbol. Now, in a little while, you're also going to see that a grouping symbol can be a division symbol. So in that case, you would do the numerator first, and then you would do the denominator next. And you're going to see how that's going to look. All right, now let's look at 22. All right, so this is 22. All right, 22 looks like this. So here's my expression. That's an easy one. According to that, what do you do first? You do multiplication first. First of all, are there any grouping symbols? No. Are there any exponents? No. So what's the only operations that you see? Multiplication, addition. According to the order of operations, what has higher precedence? Multiplication. All right, so in terms of your steps, you're going to do this. You're going to say 5 times 3 is 15. So you're going to say 8 plus 15, and then you're going to give the answer. And what's the answer? 20. 23. Okay? So just make sure you show this step. So don't be lazy and say, I know the answer right away, I don't have to show the step. Directions, guys, read the directions.
Do you mark the whole problem wrong if we don't show the step?
Yes, if you don't follow the directions, you don't get anything. All right, so show the direction. I mean, show the steps. You're fine. All right, always read the directions. Read the directions. All right, 24. Okay.
We're still on page 55.
Well, it could be 5, the next page as well.
Okay.
All right, but it's in that section. All right, 12 times 5. 12, that's a 12. Minus 3 times 6. All right, remember the steps. All right, let's talk about the order of operations. Are there any grouping symbols?
No.
No. Are there any exponents?
No.
No. All right, now what's left though?
Multiplication.
Multiplication and subtraction. Okay, so let's talk about your steps. Do one thing at a time. One operation at a time. So if I'm doing this one at a time, and this is the way you need to do it in this worksheet, what operation would you do first?
12 times 5.
12 times 5. Good. So you're going to say equals, and what's 12 times 5? If you don't know right away, use your calculator. 12 times 5 is what? 60? All right, it's going to say 60 minus, and then 3 times 6, just like this. All right, so you do one thing at a time. If you try and do too many things at a time, you can mess up. So one thing at a time. All right, now what operations are left?
Subtraction.
So, and there's no division here. Multiplication. Subtraction and multiplication, right?
Multiply one side.
All right, so according to the order of operations, what should I do next? Multiplication. So here's your step. You're going to do the 3 times 6. So you're going to say 60 minus what? 18. And now your answer, because there's only one operation left, right? So that's your answer once you figured this thing out. What's 60 minus 18? 42. All right, so you got to show these steps, though. Make sure you do one step at a time. Show one step at a time. All right, one step at a time. Yes?
My question is just if you're going down like this and you're showing your work, is it okay if you want to group them off just to make it easier when you're, like I have really messy handwriting, so if I put them in parentheses just for myself, like this, these numbers are easy, but if it's like bigger numbers or am I gonna get counted off if I carry down and I just put the 12 times 5 in parentheses minus 3 times 6 is 18?
No, that's fine. As long as you say, at some point you say 60 minus,
Right.
that's fine.
Okay.
All right. All right, 28. Let's go 28. Okay, 28, you have this expression. All right, that's 2 times 2, not 22. That's 2 times 2. Yeah, 6 subtract 2 times 2 plus 2 to the 5th. All right, steps. What would be the first step you would do? The exponent. So you've got to figure out 2 to the 5th. Don't do it by hand. Just use your calculator. What's 2 to the 5th on your calculator? What is it? 32. All right. Now I'm writing what you're saying. All right. So you're going to say 6 minus 2 times 2 plus 32, right?
How would it 32?
2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2.
80 is 2 to the 5th. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm sorry. Times 5. Okay.
Okay. 32, right? Okay. All right. Now, what will be the next step you would do? Multiplication. Because all you have left is subtraction, multiplication, addition. So you do multiplication. So you're going to say 2 times 2 is 4. So 6 subtract 4 plus 32. So that's what I have. Now, what operations are left? Addition, subtraction, subtraction, addition, right? Okay, according to order of operations, what should you do first? Based on this, though, you're going to do what first? Subtraction. So 6 subtract 4 is 2. So you can say 2 plus 32, and then your answer,
Is 34.
34. All right, so those are your steps right here. Okay, so you do one thing at a time, you should be okay. Yes?
Yes, sir. So when we're doing the 6 minus 4 plus 32, what has happened, in previous classes, just as a point of reference, when we get to that part, it's always like, okay, so we're flipping signs around to keep change flip or whatever, so we don't have to do that in this instance.
No, we haven't gotten to signed numbers yet. That's something different.
Okay.
So don't write as 6 plus the negative 4 is what you're saying. Just say 6 subtract 4.
Okay.
Yeah, 6 subtract 4 is 2. Yeah, when we get into, there's some, we haven't gotten to signed numbers like you did last semester yet.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. All right, now, listen carefully to this. Write this example. All right, I have this. Now, some of you, all of you, know several ways to do this particular problem, but the direction says use the order of operations, okay? So on the final, usually there's, not always, but sometimes they'll have a problem that has parentheses in it. It'll look something like that, and directions in the direction says using the order of operations. How would you do this? Okay, so she says the distributive property. So she's saying this. She's saying, now some of you remember the distributive property, right? Okay, well, the distributive property is not an order of operations.
No, you have to do what's in the parentheses.
Exactly. So this is not an order of operations. Distributive property is not an order of operations. So don't do that on the worksheet. There's one like this on the worksheet. You'll see it. Don't do distributive property. All right, now the distributive property will give you the same answer, but that's not following direction. Direction says using the what? Order of operations. Nowhere in there is the word distributive property. Okay? So even though the distributive, I'm going to write the word distributive property. All right, so remember, distributive property is not an order of operations. Yes, it's one of your properties that you learned. All right, so distributive property here would be 3 times 8 is 24, and then minus 3 times 2, which is 6, and then 24 minus 6 is what, 18? But that's not what I want, right? Okay, this is not order of operations. So the thing you got to do for this problem that's on the worksheet is the parentheses first. So what operation, I'm going to use a word because on my math lab they're going to ask you this. What operation should you do first? Okay, yeah, parentheses is not an operation, but that's what you, yes, subtraction, thank you. You guys can do subtraction first. That's the operation. So in my math lab, it's going to say what operation should be done first. Well, operations are addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. All right. So according to order of operation, I do what's inside the parentheses first, right? Well, what operations inside this parentheses? So you do subtraction first. Okay. So what's 8 subtract 2? So you can say 3 times 6, which is 18. Okay. So just make sure you follow
Can we
directions.
leave the parentheses? 'Cause I wrote mine.
You can say 3 times 6 in you can put 6 in parentheses. That's
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can say 3 times 6 like
I
that.
just wanted to make sure.
No, it's fine.
I had mine written like that.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
I'm so glad that you said that about the
Distributive
distributive
property.
because mine, yeah.
No, right. And that's what most
said
people do. And when we get into the variables, you have to use distributive property.
Yeah.
So the distributive property is going to be very important.
Thank you.
But in terms of order of operations, it's not an order of operations, it's a property. All right. Okay, so let's look at 36. So this is 36. All right, you have this expression. All right, that's your expression. All right, so notice you have more than one grouping symbol, right? Okay. All right. Now, we haven't really talked about this in terms of more than one grouping symbol, but But what do you think you would do first?
6 minus 4.
The innermost grouping symbol. Always do the innermost grouping symbol first. Always do the innermost grouping symbol first. Okay? So the grouping symbol that's on the outside is the brackets, right?
Mhm.
The grouping symbol that's on the inside is the parentheses. Okay. Now, this is not that bad because there's only one operation inside that parentheses. What's that operation? So what operation should you do first? Subtraction. All right. Now, remember, one step at a time, right? Okay. So here's how you're going to write this. So you mimic on the worksheet, just to mimic what I'm doing. So you're going to say 3 bracket 4 plus 3. And some of you want to use parentheses. That's fine. You can put a little dot there for multiplication. I'm going to put parentheses for this time. What's 6 subtract 4? 2. All right, and then the bracket. But you do realize you could have said this, right? I'm going to write it out like this. Put the dot instead of parentheses. Y'all agree? Okay. Either one's fine. Mean the same thing. This means 3 times 2. This means 3 times 2. Does not matter. All right. Now, we took care of the parentheses. You may say, well, there's still parentheses left. Yeah, that's because I'm using it just for that one number. There's no operation inside this parentheses. It's just a what? A 2. Okay, so now we're going to do what's inside the bracket. Now, how many operations are inside that bracket? 2. Y'all agree it's 2, right?
Yes.
Addition and multiplication. So you kind of forget about this outside 3 for right now. So you're doing what's inside the bracket, that grouping symbol. According to order of operations, what should I do first here? Multiplication. Multiplication, right? Okay. So you're going to say 3 times 4 plus what? 6. 3 times 2 is 6. Y'all agree you get this? Okay. One step at a time. So notice, let's go back to the beginning. Notice I did the subtraction first, and I got a what? A 2. Then I did the multiplication next within that bracket grouping symbol, and I got a 6. Do I still have a grouping symbol?
Yes.
What's the only operation that's left? So what should I do next? Addition. What's 4 plus 6? 10. So now remember this operation right here that I'm pointing at. What's this operation right here? Multiplication. So that's 3 times 10. And what's your answer? 30. That's all you do. One step at a time, though, especially when you get to college algebra. Next semester, you're not going to have a lot of these order of operations. Next semester is mostly factoring that you're going to deal with. But in college algebra, you do have order of operations, and it gets a little bit more complicated in college algebra, so do one step at a time. One step at a time. Try not to do too many things at once.
So on the reason you would do 6 minus 4 and get 2, and the reason you wouldn't do the 4, the initial right, it was 4 plus 3 is 7 times the 2.
Order of operations. Please, you do multiplication before you do addition. Inside that grouping symbol, you have what operations? Inside this bracket, which operations?
And that is 3 times 2.
Okay, but I'm asking for the operations though. Okay, so when I say what are the operations, I want you to say something like addition, multiplication, division, subtraction. Okay, now you are going to. Now you're going to do this. Okay, so what are the operations inside this grouping symbol?
What order of operations?
Order of operations. What?
Just addition, subtraction, multiplication, division.
Okay, so inside this grouping symbol, what are the order of what are the operations?
I have trouble seeing it. So it says 4 plus 3 times 2. So I would say 3 times.
Multiplication before addition. So you multiply first. So that's why we have 6 here.
Right, but my
Mhm.
question was, you're carrying down the 3, right? So 4 plus 3, so you're doing the 3 times the 2 as opposed to adding it, because you're saying, so addition would be first, right?
Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So my dear, multiplication, division, Aunt Sally is last. Addition, subtraction is last. Okay? Order of operations.
Order of operations, then addition,
Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Operations are addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Order of operations, please remember, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally.
The order of operations.
Okay?
What Tim does thing would be the order. And
Yeah,
then
that's
the
the order
addition,
of-
subtraction would be the,
It's just called operation. It's just that addition, they're flipped, if you look at it this way as opposed to the other way, so. Cause subtraction's at the bottom, right? Sally's last.
Sally's not last. Addition, subtraction from where, guys? Left to right. Sally's only last because of the phrase. Addition, subtraction is from left to right.
I've just always done it from like memorization, not use, cause it's the first time I've heard that actually said, so.
Okay.
And I mean, it helps, it makes
Yeah.
a big, it makes a big.
Oh, definitely, I understand. Yeah. Yeah, just practice on it. You'll get it. It'll just take a little bit more practice. Okay? So when you get to the worksheet, you go back to the notes, you look at the video. That's the best thing to do. That's what students tend to do best on those videos. Okay? Because you have the explanations there as well, not just this writing. Okay? But you'll get it. You just gotta know the order of operations. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally.
And when you move on, like she was saying earlier, you naturally go to the next step?
The
or
next
that's
step.
gonna-
And you follow the same order of operations. What do I do next? Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. What do I see? Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. And keep on doing
So
those.
on your final, is that gonna be explained to you, like do these in order of operations?
The directions will say using the order of operations.
So you know which method to use?
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right, 38. Okay, that's 2 times 3, not 2.3. Yeah, sometimes my handwriting, especially when it's on the screen, you can't see it very well. All right, now, so you have a division here, right? You're saying something in the numerator is being divided by something in the denominator, correct?
Mhm.
Okay. The way you're going to do this is deal with the numerator first. All right? Do with the numerator first. So what I would do is I would go off to the side and I would say, all right, here's my numerator, and rewrite the numerator. What is the expression in the numerator? Just rewrite it. Tell me what to rewrite. 14 minus 2 times 3. And then work on that. Okay? Do the numerator first. All right. Now let's talk about order of operations. What are the operations in this numerator? Subtraction and multiplication. According to the order of operations, what should I do first? Multiplication. All right, so you're going to say 2 times 3 is 6, and then 14 minus 6 is 8. So there's my numerator. So I'm going to, in my numerator, put a what? An 8. Okay? Let's do the denominator. Well, the denominator is just one operation, right? Subtraction. So what's 12 minus 8? 4. All right, I saw some of you use a calculator for that. You did not need a calculator for 12 minus 8. What? Oh, I use my fingers sometimes too.
okay.
And sometimes I use my toes. All right, but don't leave the answer like this. You got to know that 8 divided by 4 is what? Is 2. Simplified. So 8 divided by 4 is 2. So the answer is 2. Okay? All right, so that's how you would do the divisions like that. All right, let's look at 42.
I have a question. Would they all say simplify, or should we know the?
You should know that.
Simplify?
You should know that. Always mathematical. If you can simplify, you simplify. You reduce. Simplify, reduce mean the same thing in this case. Yeah, something you should always know mathematically. All right, number 42. All right, let's see 42. So 42 looks like this. Okay, it's a division again. The numerator is this expression, and the denominator is this expression.
That's a 4.
That's a 4. 4 squared. 4 to the second power. Yeah, I would work with the numerator first, then work with the denominator next. All right, so let's talk about the numerator. So I'm going to rewrite the numerator over. I'm going to write it over. All right, and then that takes us to what we've been talking about. According to the order of operations, what should I do first? All right, the parentheses. Now, inside the parentheses, what's the only operation you see? So I should do what operation first? That's in the parentheses. Okay. One step at a time. 8 minus 5 is 3. Write everything else over.
And I didn't use my calculator for that.
Good. All right, what are the operations that are left? Addition, multiplication. According to the order of operations, what should you do next? Multiplication. What's 6 times 3? 18. All right, so I get 3 plus 18, which gives me, use your fingers if you need to, 18, 19, 21, right? So that's your numerator. All right, that's a numerator. Okay, let's talk about the denominator. All right, the denominator. So the denominator is 4 squared plus 2. 4 squared plus 2. Now, according to the order of operations, what should you do first? Exponent. Now, remember, 4 squared does not mean 4 times 2. What does 4 squared mean?
4 times 4.
4 times 4. And what's 4 times 4?
16.
Yeah, so you're gonna get 16 plus 2, which is, so that's your denominator, right? Okay. All right, so I get 21 divided by 18. Say it again?
That's an improper fraction.
That is an improper fraction.
And you're gonna have to divide 18.
No. All you're gonna do is just reduce. Don't write as a mixed number. Just reduce. So what's the what factor goes into 21 and 18? What do they have in common? 3. Okay. So you're gonna say 21 divided by 3 is 7. So remember, you're saying 21 divided by 3, right? And you're gonna say 18 divided by what? 3. So 7 divided by what? 6. And that's your answer. Leave it as a fraction. Leave it as a fraction. All right, so in my math lab, I'm telling you, in my math lab, if you put it as 1 and 1/6, remember that mixed number? It may or may not mark it wrong because it's probably looking for a fraction.
It'll tell you your answer is correct for a different form or something. Like
Yeah. So I don't know if it's going to count as one of your tries or not. So just be careful.
So why do you want to leave it like that instead of putting 1 and 1/6?
Well, 1 and 1/6 is the same as 7/6, but on my math lab, you know what we do. You see how this is a fraction right here? We tend to leave it as a fraction. Just leave it at 7/6. Just make sure it's reduced.
So what do you consider 1 and 1/6?
A mixed number.
So you want to leave it as a...
Leave it as an improper fraction. Leave it as an improper fraction.
Got a question.
Yes.
What problem when it was like 14 minus 2 times 3 and 12 minus 8? You only got 2 for the answer. You found like the least common multiple, or you did the same thing as this problem?
8 divided by 4 is what?
2.
2.
Well, it would be 2 over 1, but that's the question I had in the math lab. Since technically it's 2, the math lab require you to put 2 over 1?
No, something like that. They expect you to remember
sometimes
that.
they'll tell you to do a fraction. Sometimes they don't say whole number or something.
Okay, so
But 8 divided by 4 is just 2. Leave it as an integer,
They'll say
a whole number. Okay.
is there a place where you can go and memorize all of these terms? Like the integer?
Yeah, they have,
like
Now there's probably a chapter 1 or chapter 2 in the book. We don't cover chapter 1 or chapter 2 in this course. That's a 97 course. That was taught in 97. So in this book we use 97. So if you go back to chapter 1 and chapter 2, they're going to have the whole numbers, integers, and all that.
Also,
Yeah.
in my math lab, it'll give you like a vocabulary readiness check. So that's in the study plan. When you go on my math lab,
So y'all keep saying that, what is that a class?
No, it's a part of your
Sorry, I
book.
just-
That's okay. It's a part of your book, so when you get the book, if you buy the book, it'll have the code, or you can buy the code alone. So once you actually register and log on, you're able to, see everything that we're talking about. So if you go to study plan, you can write that down, and then, there, you can actually choose the chapter that you're working on for all chapters, so it kind of allows you to peruse a little bit, and then, go to the vocabulary, and it'll break it down for you. They have, vocabulary, videos, sample problems, practice tests, all that stuff.
I tell you what, doing that class 0097 helped
I had to.
so
Well,
much.
I tested and they tested me out or whatever, I mean, but I haven't been in school in like 27 years.
I had a minute.
Okay.
Same.
Okay.
Same.
I'm a little, you did a lot better.
All right.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about absolute value.
Absolutely.
Okay. So you talked about absolute value 97. You're going to use it again in this course and again in not necessarily next semester, but especially in college algebra. So let's see if you remember what the absolute value of 5 is. Do you remember what that is? What number that is?
Opposite on the number line?
Nope. Oh, no. Okay. Let's use the word number line. What do you mean by that?
It's the distance from 0.
Okay. Distance from 0. All right. So if you have this number line right here, and here's 0, 5 is here, right? What's that distance from 0?
5.
5. All right. So the absolute value of 5 is just 5. All right, now what if you had this? Absolute value of negative 5.
5.
It's just 5 as well, because on the number line, if this is 0, and here's negative 5, that distance is also what?
5.
5. So the absolute value of a number is always going to be what kind of number?
Positive.
Positive. Except if it's 0. The absolute value of 0 is just what? 0.
You said the absolute value of a number is always gonna be positive?
Yes, because the absolute value measures the distance that a number is from 0. The distance of the number line from 0. And we talk about distance, it's always measured in positive terms. So if you measure the length of this table, you're going to say this is positive 6 feet long, not negative 6 feet long, right? If you measure your height, you're going to say I'm positive 6 feet tall, not negative 6 feet tall. So it's measured in distance. So the distance number is from 0. Okay, now, okay. Let's look at this. Now, it'd be it'll look something like we just did, except it's going to have absolute value in it. Now, let me just say this. On a worksheet, if you, let's go back to this. If you were this as a mixed number, I'm not going to mark it wrong, but just remember, my math lab, read what my math lab wants. All right? But if you put 1 and 1, 6, that's fine. Now, do you remember how to change an improper fraction to a mixed number? You say 6 divided into 7, right? Okay, 6 goes in 7 how many times? 1 times 6 is 6. And what do you do next? Subtract. 7 minus 6 is 1. So this is your whole number part. So that's this right here. And 1, 6. So this remainder is the numerator of your fractional part. So this is your remainder. So remember how to change a improper fraction to a mixed number. All right, now let's do a problem with the absolute value. Okay, so this is going to be number 44. 44. Okay, 44. Okay, 44 looks like this. Okay, that's the numerator. And then the denominator.
Is there 4 to the second time?
Yeah. All right. Now think of absolute value as a grouping symbol. Think of absolute value as a grouping symbol. Even though it's not a grouping symbol, think of it as a grouping symbol.
So we're doing the numerator, right?
Yeah, do the numerator first. I'm gonna rewrite the numerator.
So it's gonna be 2 plus 13
Okay.
plus 16.
So I do have something that kind of is a grouping symbol. That's the absolute value. So do what's inside that absolute value first. What's 13 subtract 5?
7.
8, 7, which one?
8.
Okay, 8.
Okay,
That's all right. So you're going to say 16 plus the absolute value of 8, though, right? Okay. Plus 4 squared. So all you did was that subtraction, but you still have absolute value there. Now let's take care of the absolute value of 8. What's the absolute value of 8?
8.
Just 8. So I have 16 plus 8 plus 4 squared. All right, now look at what you have. Have addition and exponent. What should I do next? Exponent. What's 4 squared? 16. So I have 16 plus 8 plus 16. All right, and the only operation I have left is addition, and we do it from left to right. 16 plus 8. And what's 24 plus 16? 40? Is it 40?
40.
Okay, so that's the numerator. Now the denominator is just one operation, so just do it. What's 17 subtract 5? 12? All right, now don't leave it like that. You got to reduce.
It's gonna be 3. No.
They're both divisible by 6 is not going to 40 evenly. They're both divisible by 4. They're both divisible by 2, right?
Yeah.
But let's use the largest. So the largest will be 4. So if I divide numerator and denominator by 4, what's 40 divided by 4?
10.
And what's 12 divided by 4? 3. So there's your answer. If you want to write it as a mixed number on the worksheet, it's no big deal. You're going to say 3 into what?
10.
10. Okay, 3 divided into 10. 3. How many groups of 3's go into 10? 3. 3 times 3 is 9. Subtract. You get a remainder of 1. So what's going to be the mixed number? 3 and 1/3. Okay. So remember, this 3 is this whole number part. All right? Okay. All right. Let's see where we're at. Okay. So on that worksheet I gave you, go ahead and take that first worksheet out.